Messiaen wasn't a natural city dweller. He much preferred to be close to God's creation, to hear the birds and to be out in nature. So in the early 1930s, he and Claire purchased a plot of land in a tiny village called Petichet, up in the mountains near Grenoble. There they built a summer house, which became Messiaen's writing retreat for much of the rest of his life. I'm in Petichet, up in the hills, 1,000 metres above sea level. Behind me is Messiaen's summer house. If I look down there, I can see the ripples on the lake. If I look up there, I can see a mountain. And above my head, an old hawthorn tree, which must have been here in Messiaen's time, in which was singing a blackcap, most appropriately, just a few minutes ago. It's an absolutely idyllic spot and a place of inspiration for Messiaen.
This is a place where the overwhelming majority of his music was composed. Like Mahler, he was a summer months composer and enjoyed being surrounded by nature. I was going to say surrounded by silence, but the birds are so noisy here. He's always surrounded by birdsong and the sounds of nature. On sunny days, and the birds are vibrant, but also nighttime, he would take nighttime walks. We have the tawny owl in the Catalogue d'Oiseaux, which is a really frightening kind of thing. And Messiaen, despite his reputation as a composer of joy, he did also have those dark elements in his pieces as well. So it was every aspect of nature, and he just loved being here. It was just clearly the most wonderful inspiration to him, and walking around here, it's very easy to see why. It's a wonderful place to be. It really does encapsulate the heart of his composition. We've got the bald mountain, which he refers to in Catalogue d'Oiseaux. We've got the bird song, of course, and these birds, which he notated here from the 1930s onwards, and especially from the 1950s onwards. So it's these particular birds featuring so many of his compositions. Of course, he notated them elsewhere, but these ones crop up time and time again. And then we've got the blue lake over there, which features especially in Fauvettes des Jardins and changes colour throughout the piece. But also, it was just an idyllic place for him. There's that wonderful picture of him with Claire Delbos and the very young Pascal in this meadow here, clearly just having an adorable time before the war. As time went on, it became more popular. There's windsurfers, there's sort of more noises and stuff like that, industrial lawn mowers and that kind of thing. And so by the 1980s, he was getting a bit saddened by that, and he bought another place, La Sourline. It was also closer to Paris, slightly easier to get to, because this really is a long way and in the middle of nowhere. So even with modern travel, it's quite hard to get to. But it's just the most glorious place that you could imagine for being able to compose and feeling inspired by the natural world. And so it really is the core of Messiaen's creativity.
And in his nature portraits, it's not just birds we hear, is it? I mean, we have the sound of water in places. And
there's water, there's crickets, there's frogs. In Chronochromy, he tries to transcribe the sound of a river in torrent. I mean, during the 50s and the 60s in particular, he was really, really keen to just try and notate anything he could. So there are all sorts of other things in sketchbooks which never made their way into pieces, but he was just seeing how far he could push his ability to transcribe sounds around him, no matter what they might be. And in a funny way, that's where, although aesthetically they are so far apart, that's where Messiaen really sort of links with somebody like John Cage, this ability, this awareness of what's actually around him, not just sort of focusing on the pure technique of composition.
savez, c'est ce terme chrétien qui correspond tellement à Messiaen. C'est un peu sa thébaïde ici. C'est l'endroit où il part s'isoler, où il vient pour créer et pour être en rapport avec la création.
What was Messiaen's lifestyle and routine like when he was here in Petichet?
Une vie très simple. Et quand il était ici, il avait des routines. Le matin, très tôt, vous savez, les oiseaux chantent beaucoup le matin très tôt et le soir au coucher du soleil. Et il y avait dans le jardin un grand chemin que faisait Messiaen avec des petites stations où il s'asseyait pour noter sur ses carnets les chants d'oiseaux. Il faisait de grandes promenades à pied. C'est quelqu'un qui marchait beaucoup, Olivier Messiaen. Il a monté toutes les montagnes autour, il est allé jusqu'au glacier de la Meije, il faisait des promenades incroyables, mais il venait ici en voiture et dès qu'il a été plus tard avec Yvonne Loriot, sa deuxième femme, après la mort de Claire, c'est elle qui conduisait et Messiaen se faisait conduire ici, où il restait après tout l'été sans bouger quasiment. Il ne quittait quasiment plus la maison, sauf pour aller à l'église à Saint-Théophrais, au village, et il était très investi et il allait tous les jours, il montait jusqu'à l'église.
While in Petichet, Messiaen and his family were part of the local community, attending the local church, and indeed Messiaen made a contribution towards the restoration of that building later in his life. And he played the harmonium for the services in the church on a Sunday. Oh, to have attended those services and to hear what he played on the harmonium.